Tired about hearing about the same recommended spots in Colorado Springs? Today I'm going to let you know some of the areas that I think are completely underrated that you should probably know about. What's up guys, my name is Ben, and in this channel we make videos about what it's like to live and move to Colorado Springs. So today I wanted to make a video about some of the most underrated areas in Colorado Springs. It's easy to get stuck on the topic of what are some of the best areas to live, and that is going to be largely dependent on the person. So today I want to go over some of the areas that I think people should know about that, in my opinion, are highly underrated. Also, if you're moving to Colorado Springs, we want to hear from you. So if you're looking to rent or buy, or even if you're taking a trip out here and want some recommendations on places to see, give me a call or text. So if you look online for areas of like best places to live in Colorado Springs, you're gonna largely see places in like the north of Colorado Springs with Monument and Woodmore and Glen Eagle and Northgate and those areas, and it's easy to make a video on those, but I really want to highlight again some of the areas that I personally think are underrated. So without further ado, here are my top 4 most underrated areas within Colorado Springs. And again, this is just my personal opinion. That being said, I have lived here quite a while and have a pretty good sense of things. So first up, you have Palmer Lake. If you look on like niche.com, they rank this as like the number 7 spot. And depending on who you are and what you're really wanting, I think this could rank higher. So Palmer Lake is located just northwest of Monument, so it's the very north portion of Colorado Springs, or the Colorado Springs Metro, and honestly is going to have more of a small town, mountain town feel. So my wife's aunt actually grew up in this area, and she said it felt like a really close, tight-knit community. And when her aunt and uncle moved to Dallas a couple of years ago for work, they were super sad to leave the community. So the houses in Palmer Lake are going to be a little bit older, and it's just going to have a little bit more flavor than some of the suburban areas within like Monument. So that kind of leads me into some of the reasons I think Palmer Lake is underrated. So the first one just has a little bit more flavor than some of the suburban areas in Colorado Springs. It's really easy to find suburbia in Colorado Springs, and it just kind of breaks off from the norm. The second reason, I think, honestly, when you think about moving to Colorado Springs, you kind of envision a mountain town feel. In a lot of areas, you're just not going to feel that. So you're right next to the mountains in Palmer Lake, and you do have a very small lake, but just more of a mountain town and more nature to experience. So it kind of leads me into the next point. There's just lots of outdoor activities. So you have the Palmer Lake Reservoir, and you have the Pike National Forest just right behind Palmer Lake. So you can literally walk out your front door and go on like a week backpacking trip if you wanted to. And then also, I feel like most of these areas, the one caveat is going to be the school. However, Palmer Lake is located in D38, which is one of the best school districts in the area. And then lastly, if you're commuting to Denver, Palmer Lake can be ideal. You get the cheaper cost of living with living in the Colorado Springs Metro. It's like 20% cheaper, but then you can hop on the highway and head to Denver, and it'll be the closest out of anywhere within Colorado Springs. So another area that I think is highly underrated is the Rockrimmon and Peregrine neighborhoods. So this area is going to be located in like the northwest portion of Colorado Springs, and I may be cheating on this one honestly as labeling it as underrated, because like if you look at niche.com, which I feel like is a good rating site or ranking site, they have it as Colorado Springs, and that's like Colorado Springs proper, which technically includes this area, and it's ranked like number 5. However, I just don't hear a ton of people talking about this Rockrimmon area. I feel like most of the people still gravitate towards those northern towns and anywhere within kind of D20 of like Briargate and Northgate. However, Rockrimmon is also going to be in the D20 area, at least the northern portion of it. And if you haven't noticed a trend in this video, I definitely am a little bit biased towards places that are closer to the mountains, just FYI. But in general, a couple reasons I think it's underrated. Yeah, it's close to the mountains. You have trails, you have hiking, you have tons of different outdoor activities. So when my wife and I were living in Colorado Springs in 2020, before we moved to Tampa and then back here now, we were in the Rockrimmon area. And we have these like really cool hiking trails like within neighborhoods where you could walk up a little bit and have like a really cool vantage point. There's one specifically, I think I have a video on it, but it's really cool that they implement some of these within neighborhoods and it's not just like cookie cutter suburbia. And also within this area, there's just gonna be a little bit more wildlife, especially deer. Now that technically could be a con just because it's a little dangerous when you're driving. However, it's really cool, especially if you're moving here from an area that just doesn't have much wildlife, to see a bunch of different animals. There was a lady in our apartment complex when we were living in this area who would like feed deer from her balcony, and they ended up just like kind of swarming to her apartment. Don't recommend that, but it's crazy that you can even do this in that area. So another reason I think this area is underrated, although it's not necessarily cheap, it's not the most expensive, and you get to be right up next to the mountains. So you can find some really high quality properties for a decent price over here, and you're close to a bunch of different shopping. University Village that has like Costco, Trader Joe's, and a bunch of other things. And then you also have Garden of the Gods and all the stores that are right down Garden of the Gods exit. And then honestly, just the way it's positioned up on the mountain, it's really quiet over here, like more so than you would expect. And you do have a little bit more of a view too of just like the rest of the city plus the mountains, which is a little bit different than everywhere else in Colorado Springs where you really just have a view of the mountains. And then honestly, I feel like just the architecture in general is going to be a little bit more diverse. It's not going to be the same floor plan times 5 multiplied throughout. You're gonna have some just really quirky, unique homes, not like necessarily old homes. Most of the development over here started in like the 80s and 90s, but you're gonna have some really cool houses over here that honestly sometimes when I have extra free time, I just like to go drive around this neighborhood and kind of see some of the cool houses. So next on the list is an area I feel like I mention in almost every video, and maybe it's because I'm biased, but that's gonna be Old Colorado City. So Old Colorado City is located just west of downtown and was like the original downtown in essence. And I feel like a lot of people don't have this higher on different rankings because it's full of homeless people, but honestly, it's really not that bad. When I was doing some research for this video, I saw an article that honestly was kind of intriguing. It was basically saying that a lot of people, when they think about moving to the area, consider Old Colorado City and then just end up visiting Old Colorado City a lot. And I really do think there's a couple reasons for this. I think it's because A, it's not necessarily the best school district. It's not bad, it's kind of mid-tier with District 11. You have some older, smaller houses with smaller yards, and it's not that this area has a ton of crime per se, it's just more so the more people you have in a certain area, the more crime you're gonna have. And here's a crime map so you can kind of just get a sense and I can be objective about it. That being said, if you don't have kids, and a school district doesn't matter that much to you, and you want to be in an urban environment, Old Colorado City is highly underrated. And I really think that because A, you have like 3 downtowns in a row basically. You have Manitou Springs just right to the west, you have downtown to the east, and then Old Colorado City located right in the middle. So tons to do right within the same road that connects all 3. And then also it just feels a little bit more like a small town with tons of amenities than it does like a big city, even though you're located right next to downtown, which I think is favorable for some people, especially me. I'm just biased. I like that feel. And then honestly, you just have access to a ton of different trails. So you have like Garden of the Gods nearby, you have the Manitou Incline, you have Bard Trail in Manitou as well that leads up to the top of Pikes Peak, and then you have like Red Rock's open space right next door. And then also too, there's just more options for smaller, cheaper houses. So you can find some nice places over here for under 400,000 or in the low 400s, which compared to the city average at like 470 is quite a bit lower. So last on my list, in my opinion, the most underrated area in Colorado Springs is going to be the Stratmoor Hills neighborhood. So this neighborhood is just southwest of downtown Colorado Springs, and I honestly think it gets overlooked a lot of the times because there's this notion of the further north you go, the nicer it gets. And I think people just paint over the southern section and say, that's not where I want to go, and I think this area just kind of falls in that. But honestly, that's just not true at all. So just north of this, you have the Broadmoor, which is like one of the nicest areas in Colorado Springs, and this area is really close by. So I really think it's overlooked, mainly because of that notion of the South is not a good area. And it's in District 2, which is not one of the best areas for schools, and it's not necessarily overly cheap. That being said, a couple reasons I really do think this area is underrated. First, I mentioned this in previous videos, but like in most of Colorado Springs, you have a line of mountains to the west and that's about it. But the further you go towards this like southwest section, it kind of feels like the mountains are wrapping around you and just changes the feel. And then also with this being up on the foothills of the mountains, it is just a little bit more quiet, similar to Rockrimmon, and you have a ton of things to do. So you have like the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo nearby, and then you have downtown and Old Colorado City still really close. So you can hop on South Nevada and just go directly north, easy, like 5 to 8 minute drive, and boom, you're right in downtown. So anyone who's looking for a little bit more of a suburban feel, but with quick access to like downtown, this is a great spot. And then you also have a ton of different hiking and like nature options. So you have North Cheyenne Canyon with like 7 bridges, and then you have Quail Lake that's like in the middle of this neighborhood. Super pretty area, and you can even like kayak in the lake. It's not a big body of water, but there's just not many bodies of water, so I think this does kind of separate the area. And although the real estate's not overly cheap, you can find some really decent houses over here for still a really good deal. So you can find properties in like the high 3s, low 4s that are fairly move-in ready. You're close to downtown, and as long as the school district doesn't matter to you, this area is just super underrated. So that does it for the most underrated areas in my opinion. Let us know in the comments what your favorite area out of these 4 areas are. And to any locals watching, let us know your top 3 underrated areas in the comments. As always, if you made it this far in the video, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.